Sorry, it got disconnected. Okay, so the rotary motion will be now transmitted through the Y arm to the radius of the driving drum. So this is the driving drum. So you'll be having the radius of the driving drum. So through that, the movement in the pointer on the scale will be deflected. So this is the structure of a moving block. So this is a moving block and the fixed block. The force which has been exerted will be applied over here. So this is fixed. This box cannot move. So only this block which is movable will move. And due to this movement, the Y arm will transmit the rotary motion to the driving drum. And due to the rotary motion is transferred to the driving drum, it helps the pointer to move on the scale. So this is how the sigma comparator works like. Finally, the deflected thing is recorded in the indicator. So here, if I is a distance from hinge pivot to the knife edge, so you'll be using I as a distance between the pivot to that of the knife edge. You have the knife edge here, from knife edge here to the pivot, so this distance will be measured as I, and y will be the length of the Y arm. So this is the length of the Y arm what we use, and r will be the driving drum radius. So you will be using a driving drum, so you can measure the radius of the driving drum, and d will be the length of the pointer what we are using. So we have a pointer, and the length of the pointer you will be using will be calculated. So through that, the total magnification can be calculated for sigma comparator, which will be equal to length of the Y arm divided by the distance from the pivot to the knife edge into the length of the pointer divided by the driving drum radius. So this helps in calculating the total magnification of our sigma comparator. So in actual, this is how an sigma comparator looks like. After this, you should be knowing some advantages. Okay, so it does not require any external source of energy. All mechanical comparators doesn't require any external source of energy to sense the movement. Okay, so it is cheaper and also portable. It is also in robust construction. It is also based on robust design of Taguchi method. As told earlier, almost all the comparators will be having robust design in nature, because this is one of the characteristics of the comparator. And also the design, the constructive part will be compact, and the simple linear scales are used to read. It also provides a linear characteristics as told by the characteristics of the comparator, and hence it is having a simple linear scale which is easy to read, and it is unaffected by the variations due to external source, because it is not using any external source to drive the comparator. It will be obviously not affected by any external source such as air, electricity, yeah, whatever. So these are the advantages of our sigma comparators. Now coming to the disadvantages. So the disadvantages are the range is limited as the pointer moves over a fixed scale. So if it exceeds the scale which has been given, then it won't be able to measure. So this is one of the disadvantage. The pointer scale system used can cause parallax error also. You have to stand in front of the indicator and see the measurements. So or else it causes a parallax error. And also there are number of moving parts. In any mechanical comparator, there will be number of moving parts. So when there you have number of moving parts, it obviously creates in some friction, due to which the accuracy what we get will be comparatively reduced in some extent, depending upon how much movement you have in an comparator. Okay, in that case electrical comparators will be very good enough, because there the moving parts are totally less, and as a result friction is negligible, and hence you get more accurate values over there in comparison to that of mechanical comparator. This is one of the major drawback of any mechanical comparator. And also the instrument may become sensitive to vibration due to high inertia. Okay, since due to the movement, due to the friction, it results in vibration, and as a result it results in high inertia as well. So these are the disadvantages of comparators. And next we should go about the classification of comparators. Just a second. I saw that around 13 people have not submitted the assignment yet. May I know the reason? Are they here? Today I'm going to mark them 0 directly. I'm not waiting more. So the grade for the people who haven't assigned or turned in will be 0 exactly. Please inform if they are not there in the class right now. I message them also. If they are not willing, I can't help it out. So the outline of this presentation involves different types of comparators. In that we have dealt already with mechanical comparators. Next we have to focus on electrical comparators, pneumatic comparators and their advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so now we have to start up with electrical comparators. So electrical comparators provide a wide range of applications and advantage in comparison to that of mechanical comparators. One of the main thing is, yeah, it is very accurate because it is least subjected to wear and friction. But in mechanical device, we come across many mechanical means to sense the movement, like the levers, gears, rack and pinion mechanism. So this results in vibration, friction, and reduce the accuracy. But all these are not there in electrical comparators because we outsource an external power and not the inbuilt mechanism for the movement to be sensed, and hence it is having a wide range of advantages in comparison to that of mechanical comparators. So this is how an electrical comparator looks like. So where you will be driven by an electrical supply. Okay. So here electrical comparators have no moving parts, I told you already, and hence high degree of reliability is expected from these instruments. Okay, electrical comparators are more reliable. So what do you mean by reliable? It can provide efficient output result for a longer period of time. So you can rely on them very quickly. But whereas in case of mechanical comparators, the reliability value will be comparatively less because of wear and friction. In that sense, you can say it has high degree of reliability in comparison to mechanical comparators. If they ask you the difference between mechanical and electrical comparators also, you can shoot out all these points. Okay, and you have to see why electrical comparators are used for which purpose. Mainly electrical comparators are used for two purposes. One, it is used as a measuring head, and second is it is used for all electrical gauging heads to provide usual indication to check the dimensions within the limits laid down. Second thing, it is to measure the this one limit range, the tolerance range, whether it is lying within the tolerance range or not could be identified by using electrical comparators. Along with that, it could be used as a measuring head because you can directly measure the value of the standard with that of an unknown component. So now you have to check it is being used where exactly. So the first application is very important, where there is a requirement of precision measurement. Means directly you are comparing the standard with that of an unknown component, and every time you have to get a same value when you operate in a same condition. So that tells how precise the value you have measured. So you are providing a very close value for the exact dimension of that object. In that case, the first application works. So the second application is used to indicate whether the given object is within the limit or not. Limit is again the tolerance limit for the given component. Okay, so here there is no need for a person to keep the specifications of the tolerance limit to check. Only by the type of the light of the color glows you can identify whether it is within the limit, tolerance range or not. Suppose after measuring, if it indicates a green line, green light, then you can tell the dimension is within the limit. If a red lamp glows, then it indicates it is an undersized dimension, it is below the assigned limit range. And if a yellow lamp glows, it indicates the given component is of oversized dimension. So the operator here is not needed to be aware of the exact specifications which has been given in the hole and the shaft basis or any gauge design or any component. He should not be no need for him to keep a reference of the tolerance limits for that particular component. Only the glow of light will help him in identifying whether the given component is within the limit or not. Whether it is oversized or undersized, that also they can identify. So this is about the concept of electrical comparators. So after setting the instrument correctly, all that needs to be done is to place the component under the plunger of the gauging head. So what you do is you will set the initial setting of the instrument has to be done. So after that you will place the workpiece or the component under the plunger. So you will be having an work table. So on the surface of the work table you will be placing the component. So on the component you will be having the plunger mechanism which will be connected. Okay, then the signal lamps provide
This
in
video.
standard. Hello,
No.
please unmute it. Okay, the signal lamps provide in standard positive indication of the acceptability of the dimension under the test. So what happens here, you will be having the component head on the above, you will be having the tip of the plunger with the plunger mechanism. So you will be having an electrical supply, and electrical supply will be passed on to the bar in which the plunger is connected, and the movement here will be will be sensed, and with respect to the sensing of the thing, the display screen will show the deviation what you get. So once you can keep the reference component here, and then you can see the reading, it will be 0 obviously, or else if it is not 0, in order to identify the difference, what you do is you will keep the reference component the standard one, and you set the indicator here in the display screen to be as 0, and then you will remove the standard component, and then you will place the component which has to be measured. Okay, so again it will show you the reading. So the difference between the two will provide you what is the error, and along with that you will be having the bulb here which glows. So you will be having the bulb glows. So when the bulb glows red, yellow, yeah, green, you will come to know whether it is out of the limit, whether it is oversized, or whether it is, if the green light glows, then you can tell that it is of actual size as per the tolerance range. And you can even adjust the handle arm here by rotating in clockwise or in anti-clockwise. So when you rotate it properly, it should not be too tight or too tight, or it should not be too free also. So you will adjust the handle in such a way that the plunger tip is contacting properly the component. Then the electrical source which is driven, which helps in identifying the movement, and that movement will be connected here in the display screen along with the light bulb glows here, so which helps to clearly identify the component what we have measured, is it undersized, oversized, or exactly to the tolerance range. So that is with respect to the second application where you determine the limits. For the first application, there is no need of the glowing of the lights. You will just keep the standard here, measure see the reading, you remove it and keep the component which has to be measured and see the reading. So the difference will provide whether it is matching exactly or not. Only for the second application, to determine the limit range, the glowing of the light is needed. So these are the two applications in which the electrical comparators will be used. And then we can come about the advantages of comparators related to electrical. So advantages here are the measuring units can be remote from indicating units. Okay, it is not necessary that the measuring units should be very near to that of the indicating units. It could be placed in remote place also. And second thing is variable sensitivity, which can be adjusted as per the requirement. So it is user friendly, you can adjust as per the requirement part, and here there are no moving parts, and hence it can retain a good amount of accuracy for a longer period of time. This thing you have to note down, so which is not there in case of mechanical comparators. And higher magnification is also possible when you compare in case of mechanical comparators. The magnification thing what you sense here due to external output of power is comparatively more than that of the mechanical means what we use in mechanical comparator, and hence the magnification concept what we get for the least movement of the plunger on the workpiece is more in comparison to the mechanical comparators. Now it comes about the disadvantages. So what are the disadvantages? The accuracy of working of these comparators is likely to be affected due to temperature and humidity. This was not the case in case of mechanical comparator. In mechanical comparator, it was not affected by the external source because you were not using any electrical power or air or temperature, whatever. But here what happens is the accuracy of working of these comparators is likely to be affected by these external sources. Second thing is it is not a self-contained unit because it is using or outsourcing the external power unit. You cannot tell that as a self-contained unit. But mechanical comparator is a self-contained unit because it is inbuilt with respect to all things necessary within itself. Third disadvantage is it needs stabilized power supply for its operation. If it is fluctuating, it will be difficult to sense and get accurate value. Even this is an disadvantage of it. It again depends upon the electrical power supply and how stable it is. Next is heating of the coils can cause zero drifts and it may alter the calibration. We know every instrument, it has to be calibrated before we start. If it is using an external power source where the heating of the coil is mandatory to get the required external output electrical source, then it may cause zero drifts, which again alter the calibration part, and the instrument has to be calibrated. If this equipment is used in a longer run, then it is very essential to see that the zero drift does not occur due to overheating of the coils. That shows you cannot use it continuously. You have to leave in between some gap so that the zero drift will not come into picture. And last disadvantage is it is more expensive than that of the mechanical comparator. So this is also the disadvantage in comparison to the mechanical comparators. So both have some plus points and some negative points. You should be able to shoot out all in a proper way. Next is pneumatic comparators. So this is a structure of a pneumatic comparator which consists of a compressor, a filter, a orifice meter. It is connected here to an vessel with an manometer, and again it is connected to an gauging head, and here you will be having the job. So this is the entire structure of a pneumatic comparator. So what happens in pneumatic comparator? What is the principle behind? So in pneumatic comparator, basically we use air as a source. So it works on principle of pressure difference generated by the air flow. So because here we need an flow of air in a constant pressure. Any variation in the pressure of the air will provide you the difference, and that difference generated which help in showing the variation between the standard and an unknown component. So here the air is supplied at a constant pressure through the orifice. So we have an orifice, a compressed air will be passed through the filter first. It filtrates the air, and the filtrated air will be passed through the orifice. So why before it passes through the orifice, it will be passed through an water tank. So the variation or the excess of air which has will be removed in the form of bubbles, and the required constant pressure air will be passed through the orifice meter. Okay, so this the air is supplied at a constant pressure through the orifice, and the air escapes in the form of jet. So you can see here, so when it comes to the orifice meter, the excess air will excess in the form of jet through a restricted space which exerts a back pressure. So here the space which has been available for the escape of air is too less. It is restricted place, and you have the job assigned near to it. So it results in causing an back pressure on the gauging head. So this is the gauge head what you have. So it helps in resulting the back pressure on the gauge head. So due to the back pressure on the gauge head, it helps in checking whether the given job is roundness, it has roundness in nature or not. It is basically used to check the roundness of a given component. So the variation in the back pressure is then used to find the dimensions of an component. It mainly depends upon the back pressure exerted, and the back pressure comes due to the difference in the pressure, because you need a constant pressure which has to pass through. Only that constant pressure will be taken. The excess pressure what it has will be exerted at the in the form of jet, and this results in causing the back pressure on the gauge head. So variation in the pressure will be helpful in measuring the dimension of the given job. So here the air is compressed in the compressor at high pressure, which is equal to the water head. So this you can notice. So you have the compressor. I told the air will be compressed with an high pressure. So that high pressure in which it has been compressed will be equal to the level of the water head in the water tank. Then the excess of air will be removed in the form of bubbles, that I have told you already. So compressed air will pass to the filter, and that filtrated air which comes with high pressure will be passed to the water tank, and the excess air which is out of the level of the head of water will be removed in the form of bubbles. Same thing. Then the metric amount of air is passed through the orifice at constant pressure. This is also done. Due to restricted area at A1 position, the back pressure is generated at the head of the water displayed on the manometer tube at A1. So the positions in the job could be identified as A1, A2, A3, A4, wherever you want to check the dimensions. Okay, so there the jet, you will locate the movement of the rotation of the workpiece, and you will align it little bit in a different position to get A1, A2, A3 and A4. So currently now it is in A1 position. So when the jet of air comes out, it helps to locate the deviations at the position A. Okay, so it helps if due to the restricted area at A1 position, the back pressure is generated by the head of the water displayed in the manometer tube. So you have from the manometer tube, then the water bubble is released. You will be having the level of variation in the head, and the pressure of the air which is coming out will again be displayed, uh, causing a back pressure. So due to that back pressure, what happens that it helps in determining the roundness of the job. Why? Because the job is rotated around the jet axis. You can see the axis in which the job will be rotated. So when the job is rotating, it helps in identifying how roundness the surface of the point at A1 is. Okay, so if no variation in the pressure reading is obtained, then we can say that the job is perfectly circular at position A1. If you don't get any variation in the pressure at the point A, then you say that it is exactly having the roundness surface and there is no variation. Similarly, the same procedure will be applied to check the roundness surface at A2, at A3, at A4 when it is rotated around the jet axis. Also, the diameter is measured at the A1 corresponding to the portion against the two jets, and the diameter is also measured at various positions along the length of the bore. So it also helps in measuring how roundness it is. When the roundness at different positions are achieved, it has to measure the diameter of it also. So it helps in measuring the diameter of the given object also when it rotates about the jet axis. So it helps in determining the diameter at position A1, A2, A3, A4. It will be almost the same. If you have any deviation at the surface, then you will get the deviation in the diameter measured at A1, A2, A3, A4 also. And at every point you will check whether it has the roundness nature or not. If it is not having, if the pressure is more, and then you can say that the roundness is not been achieved, and then in that case the diameter at different points also will be different. Okay, so that you have to understand. So mainly it is used in order to determine the roundness and the diameter of the given component for the cylindrical forms, anything it could be. So any variation in the dimension changes the value of H. If there is variation in the pressure, obviously the value of water head here in the manometer gets changing depending upon the variation in the pressure of the compressed air. Yeah, this is about. And lastly, you should come across what are the advantages of pneumatic comparator. So advantages are, it is very cheap, simple to operate, and cost is also low. It is free from wear and mechanical hysteresis because it is not using any mechanical means here, similar to that of electrical comparators. The magnification is, or what we obtain is still higher than that of the chemical comparators. The gauging member is not in direct contact with the work, that you have to understand. The gauging member is not in contact at all. In electrical and mechanical comparator, the gauging thing was in contact with the workpiece or the standard with the help of a plunger. But in case you don't have contact at all, only the pressure of the air will sense in determining the required dimension. Sorry, it got disconnected. So the gauging member is not in direct contact with the work. Indicating and measuring is done at two different places. Indicating is done at one place and measuring is done at two different places. Here even the tapers and ovality in the given geometrical forms can also be measured. So this was not possible in case of mechanical and electrical comparator, but here in case of pneumatic, even you can measure the tapers and ovality of the given component. So this method is self-cleaning due to continuous flow of air through the jet. So no need of maintenance exactly, because it is only the compressor which has to be good, well maintained, and the other part in which the air is being flowed is, it is self-cleaning purpose. So it doesn't require anything like other attachments for cleaning, and this makes the method ideal to be used on shop floor for online control things where it has to be controlled by itself. So in that cases the pneumatic comparators are very useful. So these are the advantages of pneumatic comparators. Coming to the disadvantages, so they are very sensitive to temperature and humidity changes, similarly to that of the electrical comparators. Only mechanical comparators were not sensitive, so these both are sensitive, and the accuracy may be influenced by the surface roughness of the component being checked. So this is one of the disadvantages, where accuracy will be directly influenced due to the surface roughness of the component. And third one is, different gauging heads are needed for different jobs. You cannot use a common gauging head. It depends upon which type of jobs are using, because you have to measure roundness, your tapering, your ovality. So you need different gauging heads. For roundness, we use one gauging head. For taper, it will be different. For ovality, it will be different. And auxiliary equipment such as air filters, pressure gauges, and regulators are needed. Air filters we have added already in this unit, and sometimes the pressure gauges and regulators also will be needed. Non-uniformity of scale is an peculiar aspect of air gauging. So there will be no proper uniformity of the scale aspect related to the gauging. This is due to the variation of the back pressure. The variation what you get in the back pressure, again it depends upon how uniform the scale is with respect to the gauging head what we are using. So this is again one more disadvantages. If they ask you to explain pneumatic comparator with a neat sketch, advantages and disadvantages, you should be able to explain all these. So for further reading, you can just refer the prescribed books as per the VTU and also RK Jain, and these two books are also good, which provides you some concepts of comparators in depth. Azra Chaudhary and Shane AK also related to mechanical measurements and instruments for this particular chapter. So this covers our second module totally. So after this, we'll be starting with the third module from the next class, and people who haven't studied, haven't submitted the assignments, kindly submit it, or else I'll just wait for 1 more hour for the people who haven't submitted, or else directly I'm going to assign 0 marks for them. So you're free enough if you have any doubts to speak on. Hope the concepts of comparators are clear enough. Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, any doubts you have,
Ma'am,
Jen?
there's too much disturbance, ma'am.
Too
Yes,
much
ma'am.
disturbance. No, actually, there is
No,
no
ma'am, this is
disturbance
clear.
at all. It was not audible to you people. Hello.
Now you are, ma'am. Before it was finding it like disturbance, like there was like a lot of poor network, I guess, ma'am. Like your voice was
Static.
like breaking.
The voice was breaking. Okay, anyhow, I'll just upload
It is
the
again.
video. Again, it is happening. I don't know. A previous class, it was not happening, right? At least you would have told in between.
Yes, ma'am, it kept stuttering.
Okay, but still, don't worry. I will upload the video in the YouTube channel as well, so you can go through it. And this was only the theoretical concept related to the computers, comparators. So next, we have to go with screw thread things related to the third module. So we'll start up tomorrow. Any doubts, you're free to call or reply through mail, whatever, if you're not understanding the concepts. I'll upload the same in the mechanical YouTube channel. You can go through it. Okay. And the PPT also related to this, I think I have shared in the classroom. Is it there related to comparators?
Ma'am, it's there.
It's there. Okay. So I'll see if related to, if you need any extra informative materials, you kindly let me know. I'll share it. Okay. And see that anyone is here in the class who haven't submitted the assignment? Or else please pass on the message to them to submit within 1 hour. Now it's currently 9:30, so by 10:30 they have to do it, or else I'm going to evaluate at 10:30. Okay. Anything else? So there are only 43 participants out of 68 or 69. So for others, attendance will be reduced automatically. Please ask them to attend properly. Yeah, Tarun, you're here. Can I get the attendance of all?
Ma'am is there in the chats.
You have uploaded already?
Yes.
Okay, you have added in the chat. Fine. I'll get it. Fine, then take care. We'll start up with the third module from the next class. Okay. I hope you have the class at 9:40, the next class, mathematics class. Everyone, please do type your USM in the chat before you leave.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Take care.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Be safe. Take care.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, bye-bye. Type your USN before you leave.